It is deadline day for federal workers to receive their final COVID vaccine dose in order to meet the Biden administration's deadline of being fully vaccinated by November 22nd. But while that's happening, a federal appeals court put on hold the president's vaccine mandate for workers of large U.S. companies. So let's bring in Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall. He's a member of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. He's also one of the few physicians in the Senate. Senator, thank you so much for your time.
Jackie, great to be with you.
So, Senator, you've signed on to this effort to overturn the Biden administration's rule for this vaccine mandate, your opposition falling under the Congressional Review Act. So what is your reaction to this latest ruling from the court?
Well, I think it's good news from the appeals court in Louisiana, and this is exactly why it's so important who we elect to be our president, so they can nominate conservative Supreme Court justices or federal court judges in this case. So it's good news. I believe the federal government has till 5 p.m. today to give us their response, and then we'll see where we go with this day. But it's a great first step. At the end of the day, this is going to end up at the Supreme Court, and we need the Supreme Court to do their job to protect our God-given constitutional rights, and then we need them to protect our future and to limit the powers of the federal government.
So one of the big arguments that you make is that people with natural immunity should be able to turn down the vaccine and not be penalized for that. But this Biden administration order does allow for unvaccinated private sector workers, noting private sector because it's not the same with the federal mandate, to instead undergo weekly testing if they forego the vaccine. Is that not enough of an allowance?
Well, certainly I don't think it is. I'm telling you, I could not get from my seats at the Chiefs game last night to the hot dog stand without 5 or 6 people grabbing me and saying, my gosh, this federal mandate, vaccine mandate is going to kill our company. Just the implementing of it will be a challenge. If you could imagine, if you got truck drivers all over the nation, and certainly those folks that felt like that were heroes just a year and a half ago, now they're being treated like, they've got the scarlet letter on their forehead, right? So we think it's very unfair, and the testing just is not a good fix for us. But most importantly, I think most Americans, and I think most people, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, I'm a physician, but I still have read the Constitution. We think that this is a gross violation of our constitutional rights.
Well, and you're vaccinated yourself, I know, and you've spoken about that. So is your opposition more logistical then? And then also, do you have any concern that the efforts that you're making would undermine confidence in the vaccine among people who haven't received it when you've received it yourself?
Right. So certainly I support the vaccine, but I do not support the vaccine mandates. This virus impacts different people differently. I've taken care of thousands of women with viruses, and I've seen those viruses have different reactions on each one of those women. This virus, very dependent on what your age is, your underlying health care condition, and even the side effects from this virus seem to be very age dependent as well. So it's way more than logistics. I think mostly that this is an unconstitutional mandate that violates our personal rights. I'm doing everything that I can as a senator to stop it, whether it's the Congressional Review Act or the legislation we're trying to use to stop the CR. We're willing to stop the funding of the federal government if they want to go forward with this mandate.
So what do you believe the role of the federal government should be then in trying to encourage people to get vaccinated without necessarily imposing some of these requirements that you think are more constricting, especially considering that the federal government has required vaccines for hundreds of years in some capacities? I mean, the administration often touts George Washington requiring vaccination against smallpox in 1777. That's something that they put out often. So what's your take on what the government should be doing at this point?
Yeah, so I believe in the sanctity of the patient-physician relationship. So the federal government should be giving doctors and patients the data that they need to know. They need to know what are the side effects from this particular vaccine. It is a new vaccine. There are reasons that people have legitimate concerns. Certainly, we do not understand the long-term side effects of this particular vaccine and this new technology. I think the worst thing the federal government could try to do, though, is to shove this down people's throat. This would be like trying to force us to take a new medicine as well. So I think the role of the federal government is to give us good science, to follow follow the science, and certainly in this case, I think if they even would acknowledge natural immunity, I think that they would be more believable. There's so much data out there that would suggest that natural immunity is better than vaccination immunity, but they won't even acknowledge that. And certainly we need the federal government to be more consistent in what they are telling us.
All right. Senator Roger Marshall, really appreciate your time. Enjoyed the conversation. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Jackie.